Welcome to this week's edition of Farmers Connection. I'm Christopher Holder. Farmers Connection is the presentation of the Ministry of Agriculture and is brought to you this week in association with the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board. On this week's program, we take a look at pesticide use and its effect on humans. A study done and a video produced that highlights all the effects and implications of pesticide use, its impact on humans and the environment, the impact of climate change in conjunction with pesticide use, and how that has been impacting on humans. We will also bring to you this week a feature on women in mangrove restoration. As you know, Guyana embarked on a massive program for the restoration of depleted mangrove forests along Guyana's coastline. We will hear about the women and their role in this process. Householders, the fumigant aluminum phosphide, commonly known as carbon tablets, is a highly restricted use pesticide that should only be handled by trained professionals in the pest control business. This fumigant is among the deadliest in the world and should only be applied in sealed or enclosed places. It must never be used in the home, office, or where humans live, work, or play. It is not a rat bait and should never be used as such. A message from the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board, Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes. Why do we submit? Every one of us today has hundreds of foreign chemicals in our blood. They're not supposed to be there. I decide to find out what those chemicals are and what they do to us.
Vi sitter på en tickande bomb.
We're sitting on a ticking bomb. Since the Second World War, our use of chemicals has skyrocketed from 1 million tons per year then to 500 million tons now. The chemical industry is the world's fastest growing industry. It currently represents almost 10% of the global economy. We're talking about 100,000 chemicals we humans have invented.
I consult Professor Åke Bergman at Stockholm University, a highly respected researcher worldwide, and ask him to analyze my blood. The test results take several weeks, and I worry about what they will show. I know that EU Minister Margot Wallström did a similar test a few years ago, so I contact her in Brussels. What was her reaction?
I instantly thought of my sons and how long I nursed them. I knew these were chemical substances that are transferred in mother's milk. That isn't exactly the first gift you want to give your children. Hi, Stefan. This is Eik Bergman in environmental chemistry. I have your test results here, both from Lund and from Lidköping. When can you come?
När kan du vara här? Chemists work very hard to create new products, and they're very good at it. It's never been their responsibility to ask, is the molecule I've just designed likely to be toxic? They don't do that. That's not been viewed as their work. So what happens? They invent a new molecule. A manufacturer realizes, oh, that's a neat molecule. I can use it to make something really valuable. It goes into the marketplace. It expands in the marketplace. It becomes highly valuable. Lots of money starts to be made off of it. And 10 years later, some toxicologist says, it's in our bodies. What might it be doing? So there's this time gap between invention and taking it to market and beginning the toxicological tests, which inevitably leads to a battle. It's a battle between the people who are making money off of it, who say, oh, we've been using it for 10 years and we've never seen a problem, and the scientists who begin to ask the right questions, because some of these questions are quite complex.
Society had an impression in the past that we didn't need to worry about chemicals, and nature would take care of it. If you threw the chemicals on the ground, the sun would break them down, or the bacteria would break them down, or they would become dilute in the water and not dangerous. And we didn't know that that was not always the case.
What's new about these chemicals is they are not known to us. In other words, they come in under the radar, if you will, and enter our bodies subversively without our knowledge. And so this makes a problem for the study of these chemicals, because you cannot ask. You could ask somebody, did you smoke, did you take this and this and this, but you can't ask, did you take phthalate, because you don't know. So I think the attack that we're under is a silent entrance of large numbers of chemicals into our bodies at levels that we don't know and whose effects we don't know. So it's a very kind of scary experiment that we're part of, I think.
Vad är det som har hänt i vår miljö under de sista decennierna? Alltså under mitt liv, jag är född i slutet på 50-talet, vad är det som har hänt då? En sak som verkligen har hänt då, det är att vi har introducerat oändligt många kemikalier i miljön som aldrig har funnits där tidigare.
So there are so many questions that you have to think about before you release a chemical, and we are not doing that job. And I think that that is very bad, because ultimately it will hurt us.
Hur många olika kemikalier har ni hittat i mitt blod?
Ja, det är ett 70-tal ämnen och då har
We found 70, and we didn't do all the tests we could have done. We could probably find about 200 substances.
Ja, vi har hittat tungmetaller.
We found heavy metals. You have elevated mercury levels. Your cadmium levels are about average. We also looked at old pesticides. Among other things, PCB and DDT, which have been around for a long time.
PCB och DDT är förbjudna.
Haven't those been banned?
Ja, visst är det.
Yes, since the 1970s.
Men det finns två begrepp.
We have two key terms here. One, these substances are persistent. They remain in the environment for a long time. They don't break down, and they change very little. The other term is bioaccumulation. They are absorbed into the body. You probably got them from fish and other things you've eaten primarily.
Så de två begreppen är
Those two
centrala.
terms are very
Samtidigt ska man
important.
veta att vi har en
We also need to know that a huge number of substances can affect us.
Och det kan vara kroppsegna, naturliga
They can be natural,
och det kan
made
vara
by our own bodies, or
icke-naturliga, av
artificial.
människan framställda ämnen. Och där har vi ju en uppsjö
There is a whole
av
slew of
kemikalier som,
chemicals.
drivmedel,
Fuels,
oljeprodukter,
petroleum products, paints,
kosmetika,
cosmetics,
läkemedel,
medicines,
bekämpningsmedel,
pesticides,
mjukgörare,
softeners, flame retardants, and many, many more.
ja, många fler.
Vi vet väldigt mycket om några hundra.
We know a lot about the 100 or so substances in the spotlight,
Men i största allmänhet så har vi...
but on the whole, our knowledge is sadly lacking.
20%, ett
Or
av fem,
20%,
finns inga data
one of
alls
five.
om
We
hälsomiljö.
know nothing of health effects. And these are high volume substances.
Långt över
Substances we consume 10, 50, 100,000 tons of per year.
enormt.
That's a huge ocean of ignorance.
The old pesticides, like PCB and DDT, I have apparently absorbed from food and drink. But there are so many new ones. This is Arne Andersson at the Swedish National Food Administration, who has dedicated his life to looking for pesticide residues in our food.
Over 40 years ago, in 1967 or 68, when I began my career of searching for pesticide residue in food, our method covered about 30 substances. The spectrum today is around 400 substances. Looking at fruits and vegetables overall, we find residue in about 2/3 of the samples, both Swedish and imports.
In this single tomato, Arne found 12 different pesticides. And in this chili pepper, no less than 29. And 87% of all apples he examined had residues of one or several pesticides.
The problem with pesticides these days is that they are used in combination. We don't just find one pesticide. We find many. Vine leaves can have 17 to 20 pesticides. The question is, why?
We were surprised even to see banned pesticides in the food that we can buy at my grocery store.
What's this big bar? One of the substances in PBDE. It's a flame retardant. And you have a much higher amount of it than the general population. Flame retardants? From what? They're substances in construction materials, textiles, electronics, to protect them from fire. These substances, these groups, are very similar to PCBs, bioaccumulating persistent substances that will be around for a long time. And these substances are manufactured in huge quantities, 70,000 tons per year over many years.
Professor Jonas in Uppsala tells me that flame retardants have been found in our indoor cats.
Cats are different from other animals in that they lick their fur so much. They wash several times a day, so if the cat is exposed to these kinds of substances found in furniture and rugs, they ingest them when they lick their fur. It's not unlike what small children do indoors. They put everything in their mouths and can ingest impurities from the dust. Children can have even higher levels. American children have high levels. But the very youngest have even higher levels than their mothers. Well, the reason we've looked at samples from cats is that many cats began developing hyperthyroidism in the late 1970s. 2 years ago, a study in the United States indicated that brominated flame retardants were the cause. Well, there's a really big bar. What chemical is that? This is DDE. It's the highest bar on your test results. Well, this is a product of the degradation of DDT, the much lower bar next to it. This shows you've been exposed to DDT, but primarily you get DDE from fish. You should talk to Ingar Brandt in Uppsala. He knows more about this. Looking at your results, I'm struck by the high levels of DDE, which is a degradation product of DDT. This high level is an indication of how very stable it is. It goes straight into your adrenal glands, the little organ that produces the stress hormone cortisol.